All right, let's read paragraph 12. The ethical problems arise because no computational system can discriminate between combatants and innocents in a close contact encounter. So, all right, we can see that this is an extension of the previous paragraph where we're still talking about the military robots. Computer programs require clear definition of a non-combatant, but none is available. The 1944 Geneva Convention suggests common sense, while the 1977 Protocol 1 update defines a civilian as someone who is not a combatant. Even with a definition, sensing systems are inadequate for the discrimination challenge, particularly in urban insurgency warfare. These complexities are difficult to resolve even for experienced troops in the field. No computational interference system yet exists that could deal with the huge number of circumstances where lethal force is inappropriate. These systems should not be confused with smart bombs or submunitions that require accurate human targeting. All right, so we're learning some more about these robots, these military robots. So we learned about, the need for autonomous robots. And so we know that in the previous paragraph, they're saying about why we need these autonomous robots. So we've got this idea of, they can lead to increase. I'm going to put up productivity, but it's in kind of a war zone, so it's a little bit dark, I guess, but it's still like, this increased productivity with autonomous robots. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about those autonomous robots? You can see, we're talking about those autonomous robots and problems with developing the autonomous robots. So that's kind of the topic of this paragraph, and let's see kind of how we figure that out. So what we're looking at is no computational system can discriminate between combatants and innocents in a close contact encounter. So we've got this idea of innocence, so these people that aren't fighting, and then we've got this word combatants. So I'm going to go ahead and put brackets around that, and that means if you look at combat, that's fight. That means someone who's fighting in this war, whatever. So we've got non-combatant. I'm going to go ahead and we've got innocent, and I'm going to put that little squiggly line under it because we've got another word here that means the same thing, non-combatant, so someone who's innocent. And then we can kind of see that, another word they use for the same kind of idea is civilian. So this innocent, this person who's not fighting, is someone who is not a combatant. So, which is kind of, I'm going to make this like question mark here, kind of circular definition question mark, because it sounds like, someone who is not fighting is someone who's not fighting. So like that's, you can kind of see the circular definition. So, so what we're trying to think about is this difference between these people who aren't fighting versus who are fighting. So we can see, like, even if we want to just, pick up some of the words, that's what we're looking at. So these innocents, combatants, and non-combatants and civilians versus the combatants. So what we're trying to do is we've got these words like, they're trying to discriminate. So they're trying to, here we've got the word again, the discriminate. I'm trying to see some of the words that get repeated and kind of pop out because they are going to kind of help us in figuring out what the we've got definition again. So let me see, we got definition. Let's see. Discrimination challenge. So I'm trying to see if some of these other things come up. So you can see in the first couple sentences that we've got this idea that computer can't tell the difference between, and I'm gonna do peace person, and I'm drawing these little pictures here. There's a peace person and war person. So, you know, if that's the way I'm writing it out, you can write it out that way or some other way, but I'm writing it that way so that, like, you know, this is, you know, one of the things, here's the need. So, and we can kind of see, like, if we're looking back at paragraph 11, we can see, okay, we need this, but then there's a problem. So, that is like preventing these robots from just being deployed. So, and that's kind of what we see in these first couple sentences. So the computer can't tell the difference between a peaceful person and someone who's fighting. And let's look at these next couple sentences. So, sensing systems are inadequate for the discrimination challenge, particularly in urban insurgency warfare. The complexities are difficult to resolve even for experienced troops in the field. So what they're saying is that, like, even for experienced troops, so the computer can't tell the difference because, you know, sometimes even experts can't tell the difference. So this inference system, so I'm going to kind of draw, like, we've got these discrimination, we've got inference to kind of show, you know, a similar meaning that could deal with the huge number of circumstances where lethal force is inappropriate. So let's look at that sentence there, because no computer can tell what, like, there's a lot of situations. So there's going to be a lot of novel situations that come up, and there's too many for a computer to be able to tell when lethal force, so killing someone, is a bad thing. So that means that if they use the computers that they have right now, a lot of people will die. So, and that kind of goes back to computer can't tell, like, this idea that computer can't tell the difference between a peaceful person and someone who's fighting. So, may kill peaceful person. All right, so I'm going to say that, which is kind of shown right here, because it can't tell when lethal force is inappropriate. These systems should not be confused with smart bombs or submunitions that require accurate human targeting. So I think what this is saying right here, so submunitions is like, I think, you know, you've got this, it sounds kind of like ammunition, so it's kind of like different kinds of weapons. So these weapons, so we're thinking more about, so what I think they're just clarifying that, yes, we're talking about these autonomous ones, so not the ones that actually require accurate human targeting. I think that's what that's saying, that it's the human doing the targeting rather than the general, than the target, but that might be what that's saying. It might be something else. So I'm going to say, like, that it's the autonomous robots. All right, so we've got this, we can see that we've got these few paragraphs. Let's see, I'm going to read the first sentence of paragraph 13 and see if that's about the same topic. Robots for care and war represent two of many ethical problematic areas that will soon arise from the rapid increase in spreading diversity of robotics applications. All right, so we're talking about war, we're talking about care. We can see that this is our conclusion. We're coming up on our conclusion. So we've got because we're talking about topics that we've talked about earlier, we're talking about topics that we've seen in this previous paragraph. So one thing that you can do when you finish this like chunk, this topic right here, you can see that paragraphs 10, 11, and 12 are going to be about the topics of military robots. And you can kind of see some of the ways that these paragraphs relate to each other. And I'm going to show a little bit about like kind of outlining the paragraphs and how that all comes together. So robots for care and war represent just two of the many ethically problematic areas that will soon arise from the rapid increase and spreading diversity of robotics applications. So because we're talking about care, something that was talked about earlier, we're talking about war, something that was talked about more recently, we can see that this is the conclusion. We're reminding what they do right here, which is something you should be doing in your own writing, is reminding your reader, you know, the things you've talked about, and just kind of like reminding them, making them think, oh yeah, we did talk about robots being caring, not just being used as weapons. So let's go ahead, look at the last couple sentences. Scientists and engineers working in robotics must be mindful of the potential challenges of their work. I don't actually, you know what, that word didn't really come out. The potential dangers of their work, and public and international discussion is vital in order to set policy guidelines for ethical and safe application before the guidelines set themselves. So that's kind of neat that, you know, we're even talking about like, ooh, maybe autonomous guidelines, you know, maybe you can even make a question mark there. I don't think that's really what that, I don't know, maybe that is what they meant. So, but yeah, that's kind of a connection back to, you know, that previous topic where they were talking about, you know, autonomous robots. And so we've got this idea where in the first sentence where it's kind of a summary, we've got like, you know, what happens, you know, the whole paper kind of just summed up. And then scientists and engineers working in robotics must be mindful of the potential dangers of their work, and public international discussion is vital in order to set policy guidelines for ethical and safe application before the guidelines set themselves. So this might be something like, you know, like we've got this idea of like the guidelines setting themselves without the influence of important people. So we need these public and international discussions. We need policy guidelines for ethical and safe applications. So what we've got here is really kind of this call to action. This idea that the author wants the reader to do something or wants the general public to do something. So they've talked about all these ideas and they're saying like, this is what needs to happen next. This is what they want to happen next. And we need to like be including scientists and engineers in this conversation so that we are doing things so that we have a safe future. So that is the article, The Ethical Frontiers of Robotics. So let's, we're going to think about this a little bit more so that way you come away with a nice, clean understanding of this article.